Hello, welcome to Farron Noir at the Bar. I'm Russell Day and I'm going to do a short reading from my latest novel, The King of the Crows, from Fahrenheit Press. Before I do that though, I'm going to show you how to make my favourite cocktail. If you're new to cocktail mixing and you're a little bit nervous, don't worry, this one's very easy. What you need is a bottle of tequila and opposable thumbs. With the opposable thumbs, you open the tequila and have at it. Little tip for responsible drinking: if you got to the point you can't get the cap back on the bottle, stop drinking. Okay, this is a section from the book, which is effectively a book within a book. It's the memoir of one of the main characters, and the memoir is called Kings of Crows, Life on the Wrong Side of the Lockdown. From Kings of Crows, Life on the Wrong Side of the Lockdown by Colin Robertson with Michael J. Ritchie. Celsius Press, 2025. Anosmia, lack of the sense of smell. I don't know if there's a special word for midlife crisis induced lack of smell, but that's the kind I have. My midlife crisis came at age 37. Young, I know, and possibly the only time in my life I'd been ahead of the game. My parents always said I was a late developer. At 37, my gut was climbing the waist of my trousers, and I started to count obsessively the number of hairs I'd leave on the comb each morning. The accepted solution in those days was to join a gym you'd never go to, or pay an arm and a leg to have a personal trainer shout at you. I couldn't afford either. I signed up at the local karate club thinking I'd get fit, build confidence and learn self-defence. That was what the poster on the leisure centre wall offered. As well as the sales pitch, there was a photo of someone performing a head height kick. In my third lesson, I walked straight into such a kick and was taken to A&E to have my nose realigned and my consciousness assessed. The waiting room was full. The staff were trying to avoid eye contact so they could pretend not to see the latest arrivals. The doctor who finally saw me was jittering with caffeine and grey with fatigue. She looked me over, decided I wasn't about to switch off, and dismissed the security guard. I think that was the week they started issuing ambulance crews with sidearms. She did something to my nose that resulted in a wet flash of agony and a loud cracking sound. Then she told me it was likely I'd sheared my ethmoid plate in two and severed the olfactory nerves. At least my nose was straight again. That's why I don't talk about the smell. Most people have something to say about the smell, the way it would cling to them, following them, how they could never get it out of their noses. I missed all that. I don't imagine it was anything good. End stage of the disease just before the infection took over or killed them, body functions began to erode. Bowels, bladder, stomach, they're usually empty. I've read accounts of victims speaking in tongues, uttering the 10,000 names of God, issuing prophecies. Whatever they may have said, they said it from a puddle of shit. I never heard anything other than gibberish. Some of them would lock onto a phrase or a line and they'd repeat it constantly. I think that's where the spiel about prophecies comes from. If you were part of it, caught up in the fighting, you'll know what I mean. I got separated from the group one time. I don't know how it happened, but I got left behind in a building we'd been stripping. I was on the second floor in a room at the end of a long corridor. I realised it was getting late and I made to leave before it got dark. As I got ready, I heard all hell break loose on the road outside. The group had moved out of the building and into the street. I found out later they'd been caught in a crowd of gonzos, fresh ones. It looked like another group of survivors had got infected and switched off. They were still strong. Our group was good. We'd had a lot of experience by then, but these were fresh and they took a lot of killing. We lost people. I feel guilty about that. Maybe if I'd been there, I would have made a difference. When I heard the battle kick off, I made to run out and help. As I left the room, at the other end of the corridor, 6 or 7 gonzos appeared. Most of them were quiet, not all victims babbled. One of them, though, had locked onto a phrase. He was shouting, "Tick-tock, the clocks have broken the key," shouting it again and again. The pack saw me or heard me and ran forward. I was alone and unarmed. I'd left my axe somewhere, and anyway, there wasn't the space in the corridor to swing it properly, and there was nowhere to run if I missed. I ducked back into the room and slammed the door behind me. piled desks and filing cabinets against it, then waited. I was stuck there until the next morning. They didn't let up for a minute. The entire night they hammered at that door. I was lucky it was a heavy-duty fire door, and thank God it opened outwards so it held. The sound of the hammering changed the longer they carried on beating against the wood. The pounding began to sound wet, then became a sharp clanking noise, and finally turned to scratching. They hammered at the door until their fists turned into pulp, carried on until the bones were poking out of them. It went on so long they didn't have enough left to punch with, and they just scratched away with their stumps. Sometimes victims would scream, cry even. Those were the really unlucky ones. The disease left enough of their brains intact to register the pain. There was none of that on that night, but all the time I was listening to them trying to break through the door. The chanting one kept it up. Tick-tock, the clocks have broken the key. Tick-tock, the clocks have broken the key. Sit in a world where nothing makes sense anymore. Sit in the dark for 9 or 10 hours, listening to someone beating themselves into jelly and bellowing one string of sounds. People crave order, something to believe in. If there's no order, your mind tries its damnedest to find some. The group found me the next morning. When they got to a safe place, they counted who was lost and, as soon as it was light, went back to account for people. When they couldn't find my body, they went back to the last building I'd been in and followed the sound of the gonzos trying to break down the door. I had that bloody phrase going round and round in my head for days. I kept on trying to decipher it. What had it meant? What was that poor bastard trying to say? It meant nothing. But I can see why people cling to the idea that the gonzos were trying to tell us something. Something's out there trying to get a message through. There is a plan. Compared to the idea that it was all just chance, it's a comfort of a type. Chance doesn't care and can't be appeased and can't be reasoned with. Chance means it could all happen again. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. And if you want to know what all that was about, you're going to have to buy the book. So, drink sensibly, and if you can't drink sensibly, drink heavily. Good night.